Bruce Pearl is one of the most successful and recognizable coaches in college basketball. 5 SEC championships in 8 years, 2 Final Four runs, and a national following that hangs on his every word. He's spent decades mastering competitive pressure, media scrutiny, and the art of leading young men under the brightest lights. And in one of those brightest moments, after a major SEC victory, with the cameras rolling, he used that platform not to talk about lineups or strategy, but to speak the name of an American-Israeli hostage being held in Gaza, Edan Alexander. A winning coach at the peak of his public profile decided to use his moment for someone who had no voice. That's my friend, Bruce Pearl. This conversation was recorded in Jerusalem back in August. That was before the release of all the living Israeli hostages, and just a few short weeks before Bruce announced his retirement from Auburn. We didn't know it then, but we were sitting with a man standing at the crossroads, looking back at an extraordinary career and looking forward to what comes next. Now, before we begin, I want to say something directly to my Jewish Torah-observant listeners. Bruce, in this interview, will speak openly and frequently about faith. He blends elements of his Jewish heritage with Christian practice in what might surprise you and might make you feel uncomfortable. As an Orthodox Jew myself, I'm giving you a heads up. Just to be clear, You Are What You Give isn't here to preach theology. These are conversations between me, a Jew living in Israel, and a world bursting with people who love to give. Today is about Bruce's story. One take, no smoothing out the edges in an attempt to make all listeners happy. For those who do continue with us, this is a candid, straightforward conversation with a man who led on court, stood publicly with Israel, poured himself into his players, into his community, and into his family. This is You Are What You Give. Let's tip off. What if the way you give says more about who you are than anything else? I'm Avi Zimmerman, giving coach, strategist, and lifelong student. And this is You Are What You Give, a podcast about generosity, purpose, and fascinating people. Thank you for joining us on the journey of a life worth living. What an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to have Coach Bruce Pearl in the studio for this podcast, this modest podcast, which has great ambitions. We're telling the story of giving through the fascinating personalities who give in so many different ways, and it includes philanthropy, and of course includes, in your case, on the court and off the court. There's so many things I want to start to talk about, but first, a couple of months ago, I saw you speak, but I want to say perform, because when you speak, you're performing. Perform on stage at a JNS media conference in Jerusalem. And we're recording from Jerusalem right now, but different time. And at the end of that presentation, where you spoke about Israel, and you spoke a little bit about your path to the playoffs and the Final Four, they came out of that room electrified. Now, I want to say they all wanted to talk about how much they loved Israel, but they were in the room anyway because they loved Israel. They're like, I want to go play basketball. The people were electrified because there's an intensity of intent that I saw, and we all saw when you were on that stage. And the story that I want to begin with, and this is midstream, we'll go a little bit back and we'll go a little bit forward, but you told the story of how when you sealed that spot going to the Final Four, you got in front of the cameras and you said something, you shared a message about Edan Alexander. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. First of all, Avi, it's wonderful to be with you, and congratulations on the podcast and the way you're teaching us how to give, and how in many ways it identifies us, and in so many ways it blesses us. And we've got to also let people know that we've known each other for a while, because your work as the head of the Judea-Samaria Chamber of Commerce and the work that you were doing to try to bring Jews and Arabs together, and was a beautiful thing that I supported and so proud of you for.
Thank you.
I I think it really has to do with being Jewish in this sense. At the wedding, we are tears of joy. We're making promises to God. It's an incredibly special time for these two people and for these families. And what do? We shatter a glass into 1,000 little pieces, talking about how fragile life can be, how fragile marriage can be, and of course, all the different interpretations about remembering the destruction of the Second Temple. But for me, it's a little bit of this. Even in our greatest joy, maybe there's some others that aren't so happy right now. So here's what happens to me. We just beat Creighton in Rupp Arena to go to the Sweet 16. It wasn't an upset, but Creighton easily could have beaten us. And I knew what stood in front of us in Atlanta, 2 more games to go to the Final Four. The teams in Atlanta were good, but I even know then we were better than Michigan or Michigan State. If we could have beaten Creighton, oh my goodness gracious, we got a chance to go to the Final Four. And I mean, we're happy. So I'm in the halls of Rupp Arena, and kind of like Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion, me and my players are following the Yellow Brick Road to the press conference. And all of a sudden, I just hear God's voice, or I get tapped on the head, or it's in my heart. I don't know what happens, but I was thanking him. I was thanking him for the blessing. What have I done to deserve this? Really? We got a chance to go to the Final Four. God, thank you. And that's when he spoke to me and said, remember who you are. Your name is Mordechai Shmuel. Mordechai, the story of Esther and Purim, and I got a responsibility to speak up. I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you're blessed. We got some people in Gaza that are in the tunnels, and they're held hostage, and they're not so happy right now. And they're not going to the Final Four. And all of a sudden, Edan Alexander's name comes into my mind. And I had really not spoken his name very much. I even asked my sports information director, do me a favor. It's Edan. His last name, I think, is Alexander. Double check. She's like, what are you talking about? We're going to a press conference. Just check the one American held hostage right now. Checks it. It was Edan Alexander. So I asked the guys, I said, guys, there's an American held hostage in Gaza right now. And one of my players, Todd Pettiford, says, and coach, he's from Jersey. I said, that's right. He is from New Jersey. I said, listen, I don't want to take anything away from you guys. You're going to the Final Four, and we're celebrating. But God just spoke to me and said, say his name. We don't know the names of our hostages, but we know the names of all the basketball players that are going to the Final Four. And there's something wrong with that. Guy said, coach, say it. Say it.
So you got the thumbs up from the team.
I did. I don't know why I felt like I did ask their permission, but clearly it wasn't basketball related. But I sort of felt like it was. Avi, I had no idea how important that message was to the world, to American Jewry, and to everybody here in Israel. I mean, anybody that heard that, I don't know. I can't even understand it. All to the point where Edan's father, Adi, contacted me the next day. How'd you get my phone number? He got my phone number, told me what it meant to him. The Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Herzog. Are you kidding me?
Amazing.
They all reached out and contacted me, said, Coach, thank you for what you did. I don't like just doing little things like that, so I call ID. I said, what are you doing this weekend? I hear you and your son are big basketball fans. They said, I don't know what we're doing this weekend. We're sitting by the phone waiting to find out if Edan's going to get released. I said, come to Atlanta. And so with the help of Athletes for Israel, we bring him and his son to Atlanta.
Amazing.
And they came to the game. He talked to the team the day of the game. I've not talked about this to anybody. What do you say? In that situation, he's not a professional speaker. He's just a father. And I asked him 5 minutes before we go, he said, could we sit in on the meeting when you're getting ready to talk about Michigan? He's a basketball guy. Sure, you can sit in. And a few minutes before, I said, would you mind just saying a couple of things to the team? I'd like to at least have them know who you and your son are. He says, sure. Message was real simple. Right now, my son is in Gaza, and right now you are here. I don't know if my son is alive. I think he is. I don't know if I'm going to see him again. But I see you here, and I see that you've got a game later on today. The thing I would tell you as his father, take advantage of this moment.
What did that do to the team?
Oh, are you kidding me? There's nothing any human being on earth could say to motivate a team other than my son may not be alive right now and I may never see him and hold him again. But you're here and you're now. Take advantage of this opportunity, make the most of it. And that's what we should do in life. What a brilliant message. The guys certainly appreciated it. And what it taught my players is, guys, there's more to it than just basketball. I know we've got a big game. I know we're in the Elite Eight. And yes, your coach is bringing in the father of a hostage to say a few words to you before the game. But there's more to it than just the game of basketball. And I honestly believe that we've won 5 SEC championships in the last 8 years, Avi. You cannot explain it. You cannot explain it. It is Hashem. It is God. It's the blessing. And I really do feel, and I know it fits in with you are what you give. This is hard. In our faith, when you give quietly and privately, God says he'll tend to bless that a little bit more. One of the problems I have as the basketball coach at Auburn, when I give, it's very public, unfortunately. And I don't know, even in Scripture, whether God necessarily blesses that or he blesses it as much. But he has blessed us. He has given me and this little Auburn basketball team the success to do things like that. And I honestly, I say this, you have to, Avi, I hope you know me. I don't do the things that I try to do to be the best person I can be to get rewarded or to get blessing. I swear, God's on my papa, I swear. We were just raised to try to do the best you could, made promises at the bar mitzvah, right? I'm going to keep the Sabbath, which I don't often enough. I'm going to be in prayer, and I'm going to do mitzvah. And the doing mitzvah part is the way, good deed, the way we live our life. Make the most of this opportunity. I'm bouncing all over the place. You asked me one question 10 minutes ago. I apologize.
It was perfect.
This is important. This is really important. And I said this when I eulogized my dad, by the way. His 2-year anniversary of his death is coming up in a few days, and we're going to go to Boston. We're going to unveil his stone with my mom, who died a few months later. So I lost both of my parents in the last couple of years. But the movie Saving Private Ryan, at the end of the movie, when the older gentleman is standing before the stone of Captain Miller, and he looks up to his wife, he actually doesn't look to his wife, he's still staring at the stone, but she's right on his shoulder. And she says, "Tell me I've lived a good life. Tell me that I was a good man." Because Captain, when he was getting ready to die, he leaned in voice. He said, whispered in his ear, he said, "Earn this." Those soldiers traveled all over Germany to find him, rescue him, send him home with the one message, earn this. I would like my wife, when I'm done, to be able to say she married a good man, and I've earned this. So that's how I've tried to live my life, and I'm thinking I'm my dad now. So
it's very powerful. Coach Pearl, I love what you're saying about earning things. We're often looking at what it is that measures of success. Those are oftentimes things that people will attribute to you. You just spoke about this platform that you have where you question, if I do things in their public, are they not recognized? You're not personally recognized, but let's call it a divine dynamic, quite the same way as they might be recognized if I did things more quietly. So number one, you and I both know that you do things quietly that nobody knows about. Number two, many would argue, myself among them, that because of the significant platform that you have, your giving is all that more impactful. Like, how do we measure the impact of giving? One of the things that we measure is the outcome. Edan Alexander is home. Can we say that was Bruce Pearl, or Coach Pearl that did it? Well, you played a role. The fact that the Prime Minister and the President spoke to you about that means that you played a role. We don't know exactly how to calculate the calculus of what everybody's role, but you incrementally moved that ball forward. And that's significant. I can't imagine someone with a quiet platform being able to move the needle on that quite the way that you would. So I would argue that that's significant, and that's the earning perhaps that you're talking about, because it's ultimately an investment. When you're giving, you're investing. I want to get back to that, but I also want to just speak not about the platform per se, but just a moment for the players, and then maybe go a little bit backwards for a moment. But the players, they know you, they know your heart, they know your focus, they know that you're focused on them, you're pouring into them, and also know that you have a broader spectrum or perspective that includes not only the team but other things. Do you follow any of your players? Do you see where they're going in life, their careers, the personal decisions they're making, the kind of families that they're building?
The ones that want me to, yes. Some guys love the connection, love to maintain the connection, and other guys are just fine to move on with their life and thank you for the job that you did at the time we had together. And every now and then we'll pick up and make a phone call or text or send a picture, things like that, but we don't need to have the connection because life is very, very busy. Mm-hmm. And look, the great football coach Pat Dye said this, and I believe you can coach him as hard as you love him. And so when you think back to how you were coached hard, your mom and dad could say anything they wanted to say to you, and you'd listen to them, or at least you'd put up with it, because you knew they loved you. They knew they cared about you. So as a coach, if the kids know that you truly care about them, and over a period of time learn to love them, one of the things that I think the word love gets thrown around way too easily. People say, I love you, brother. No, you really don't. You don't know me very well enough. I tell my freshmen, they come in, I don't love you. I don't even know you. How could I love you? Well, you recruited me. No, I don't. Let's go through some stuff together. Let's go through some good, some bad, some ugly. Let's get through some stuff. Let's celebrate. Let's be up. Let's be angry. Let's whatever, all the different emotions that are going to happen when a team wins or loses basketball games. And let's learn to love each other.
That's so powerful, because that's life, right? The ups and the downs.
Yeah.
And the parallels between sports, basketball, competitive sports, and the challenges that we face. Can I just take you back for a minute, rewind on that?
Yep.
You spoke about loving and coaching, and then you quickly went to the way that our parents coach us. How did your parents coach you?
Oh, the things that jump out to me, look, I knew they loved me so incredibly much. When I was 5 years old, we moved to the suburbs. Grew up in the city, triple-decker, Boston, whatever. And when we moved in the house, aunts, uncles, cousins, older grandparents, the great-grand-uncles, like the 30 people that when we opened up the door and whatever. At the time, I didn't know what the big deal. I thought that's the way every house gets opened. My father was the first person in his family to ever live in a single-family home.
Wow.
It was always a duplex or a triple-decker. That's how they all grew up. So what a big deal that my father had this 1,200 square foot ranch, single-family home.
Where did your father come from?
Boston.
And his parents?
Mom and dad. My grandfather was Turnipole, came over in 1929 with his 3 younger siblings. He was 11 years old with 3, my Auntie Shirley, my Auntie Claire, my Uncle Harold was an infant. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, not all of Papa's family could come because they could only afford to send the children, and most died in the Holocaust or the pogroms before that. And then my grandmother was from Warsaw, Poland. So on my father's side, my other grandparents, my mom's grandparents were from Odessa.
So yeah, coming from Eastern Europe, and third generation American.
Yes. Yep. So, yep.
So that was like a celebration coming to the house.
Yeah, and I guess to finish the point was that we had everything we wanted, everything we needed. I thought my dad was the greatest salesman in the world, and and whatever. I didn't realize, how middle income we really were. I thought we were very wealthy, I wouldn't even know what wealth was. Comfortable, fine, whatever, But I also knew that a good report card meant an ice cream cone, and that a dinner, going out to dinner, could be Burger King. Like that was going to dinner, and that was, who cared? That was a treat,
of course.
So, yeah, growing up very, very humbly like that, but also having everything I wanted and parents that loved me, and also made sure that I went to Hebrew school and, did the things that I needed to do to understand my faith. My grandparents kept kosher. And so I had a great foundation of faith in our family.
But you never felt like you were lacking anything growing up?
No, nothing. Absolutely lacking. I'll tell you, I tell my camp counselors when we're in basketball camp, you need payers and players. mostly payers, because all we do basketball camps for is I can pay my coaches a little bit of extra money. So we run camps on campus. And I said, most of the kids, they can afford to go to camp all summer. Most. I don't want you to treat them that way. I want to tell you a story about when I was a kid growing up. 8 weeks in the summertime, I spent 6 weeks at the playground, and I spent 2 weeks at summer camp. Summer camp went for 8 weeks, not 2 weeks. But my dad saved, and I watched him save. I watched him put money away. I watched him put coins in a bottle, and this was for my summer camp. And I had the best 2 weeks of the summer, but I learned to appreciate it so very, very. I said, and what I did to help with camp was I shoveled snow and cut grass, and I put money into, and he didn't ask me to, but I wanted to. So together we saved up enough money. I told my coaches, you treat every single kid at our camp like he can only afford to go to one camp all summer long. And for these 4 days, he chose the Bruce Pearl basketball camp. Can't go to any other camp. Cut grass, shoveled snow, did whatever he did, or his parents worked hard. His parents said, look, we can only afford to send you one, and it's the camp. That's how I want you to treat that kid.
That's awesome. So basically, you've not grown up ever feeling like you're lacking anything, but yes, feeling the need to invest. Yes, feeling the need to commit yourself. We spoke before about earning.
Yep.
You needed to earn that place in your summer camp, and that you pitched in to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So let's take this forward, because today you're not only pouring into your basketball players. You're not only spending the time on the court. You're very active off the court. And I know that you're involved in a number of projects. Right now, you're here amongst other commitments that you have in Israel. You're here in Jerusalem. You've got a board meeting for the U.S. Israel Education Association. What is that, and why did you choose to join that organization? Because today, you serve as the chairman.
Yeah. Well, here's a quick story about giving. So we this organization brought me and my wife to Israel. Didn't bring me. We went with them in 2019. That was our first trip with this organization. And my goodness gracious, Heather Johnston, the founder, she was ministering to us. She was teaching us the Abrahamic covenant. She was teaching us my Jewish roots in the Bible and my wife's Christian roots in the Bible, and brought it all together beautifully. I'm a basketball coach. What do? I bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, religion, Jerusalem should bring us together. It should not divide us, and yet it does. And Heather and this one brings it all together. And so, but then also I recognized about halfway through the trip, I said, honey, this is an amazing trip. My God, we're learning everything. So I think they're going to ask us for some money, like they did. And so when I did join the board, I told our chairman at the time, I said, look, I will do this again, but never are we taking anybody on this trip without letting them know in advance. They don't have to give anything, but there would be an ask.
No surprises.
No surprises. It's okay to not give anything. It's right. Okay. Give what you can. Don't have to give anything.
Set expectations.
But set this.
That's a really important, because really, we're here, this program, these episodes are focused on giving tools to people to get better insight and giving better. Yeah. The focus is not on the organizations that are running these trips. And you and I both love U.S. Israel Education Association. Yeah. But it's still a great pointer from the perspective of the person looking for the other side.
Yep.
Hey, guys, prep the team.
Right.
Let them know what to expect. What's the game plan going to look like?
Yep.
Not just what's the itinerary, but what are you signing yourself up for?
Right. I always say about a couple things when it comes to what organization you're going to give to. Let's pretend they don't exist. You may want to give to the Boys and Girls Club of your city, whatever it's going to be. Whatever. Let's pretend the Boys and Girls Club has never been there. Where exactly are these kids going to go home after school? Are their parents going to be home? No, their parents are working. What would our community look like without the Boys and Girls Club? And then whether or not, that's one way I use to detect.
It's powerful.
Powerful.
It's powerful because you need to be able to measure in some way, shape, or form what is the added value of that organization. There's so many organizations.
Right.
What happens if this one wasn't there? What would the world look like?
And there are organizations, as I'm sure you probably have programs on, that aren't good stewards of the money that you're donating. That's a whole nother subject for a whole nother time. The other thing that for me with U.S. Israel Education specifically was like, okay, so Israel is part of my philanthropy, my advocacy for Israel, and our financial support. We're blessed to be back in our ancestral homeland, and we're grateful. And so therefore, we want to bless. USIA works directly with Congress. I don't have a lot of money. Even if I knew somebody that did have a lot of money, they don't have as much money as the United States government. They just don't. And so by giving to USIEA, we are then teaching through education congressional leaders on how important Israel is as an ally, improving the U.S.-Israel relationship, the battle over Western civilization, the good versus evil, all the different things, and of course the biblical promises that were made and hopefully kept. So Congress is a multiplier to my giving, and that's oftentimes what I look for.
And I love the strategic outlook. I will say that this podcast is not a plug for the kosher giving book that I wrote at the beginning of this war, the October 7 war.
That I wrote a forward to, or
you wrote the forward to the book.
Okay.
And I just so you know, Coach Pearl, I'm fortunate to know a whole bunch of interesting people, but I really felt that your insight on and off the basketball court is going to add.
You don't know nearly enough important people, Avi. If you felt me, I was the guy.
You'd be surprised. You're just a modest guy.
Okay.
But what you just spoke to, I think, is something very significant, because you're speaking about a force multiplication, or what I would suggest would be strategic giving. Mm-hmm. So you give your time, you give also your treasures, you're giving to an organization, and your talents. You're giving to an organization like U.S. Israel Education Association, but you know that they're going to go along and take that time and effort that you've applied and invested, and they're going to multiply that investment, in the case of Congress, by many, 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 many fold. Yeah. And that's significant because a lot of times people are thinking in their giving, again, looking at the other side of the looking glass, they're thinking about things in terms of there's that bucket. There's a giving bucket. And maybe some people are less engaged in their giving. They're not joining the boards, or they're not active on those boards. They just want to know that they've given, which is very significant. If people are doing that, net gain for society, I'm in favor. But there's that extra piece where you really think through, how is this money going to work? How is my time going to work? And the methodology of the giving, the commitment to the giving, and making things exponentially, impactful, is something that not everybody takes that step. And that's a significant step. So don't underplay that.
No, it's important. It is important. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that we do, we support people who are battling cancer.
Right.
Okay? And we started that because one of my players actually was diagnosed with testicular cancer on a random drug test after an NCAA tournament game. The doctor comes in, or the people that do the testing in, we got a problem. There are 3 possibilities here. 1, your player did steroids and had testosterone over we knew that wasn't a possibility with this kid. 2, he had testicular cancer. Or 3, he was pregnant. Well, we were rooting for pregnant.
Yeah, that's
what our own
third out
for pregnant. Back then you couldn't be pregnant. Now I'm not sure whether or not you can anymore. I'm confused. But he had testicular cancer. Bottom line was, we detected it early enough, and he survived it. And as a result of his battle, his senior year, to beat testicular cancer, his name is Chris Lofton, and it's a well-documented story. We decided that Chris outlived his cancer, and it was OUT, University of Tennessee, LIVE, that was the program. At Auburn now, it's AU, Auburn University, LIVE. We call it Outlive at Auburn. You'll outlive your cancer if you detect it early. Mm-hmm. And so it was a combination. The funds were raised to be an awareness for men for prostate cancer, women for breast cancer, all the different things, getting your PSAs, getting your blood drawn, getting your exams, getting your skin cancer, all that different stuff like that. Awareness. And we wanted the money to go to patients, because there's so much cost coming out of people's pocket. I can't afford that copay. It's the better medicine, but my insurance won't cover it. Or just, you know what? I was too sick to go to work from the chemo for 3 days. I'm an hourly employee. I missed all the income, and we're going to make that income up, help people financially to battle cancer. Last year, we gave $300,000 in the state of Alabama. That was just for that year's take, which was our highest number. But $300,000 went to different facilities throughout the state that know the patients who need the money. And so that was really important, that we were able to track our gift and say, look, we want to give this to you, this cancer institute in Montgomery or in East Alabama or Lake Martin, but the money must go to a person.
Right.
And they know who needs it.
Well, there's the methodology to it. I call that the impact agents. Who are the people that we're working with when we're giving? Because we can't give to every individual. We can't know them.
That's right.
It's not time efficient. It's not the sort of, you talked about doing things quietly. You don't necessarily want the people who are receiving to know who they're receiving from. And yet, how do you build those bridges? So those impact agents, sometimes it's the organization, the nonprofit. It's the relationships that the nonprofits have. Maybe it's with social services or the hospitals, whatever it might be, creating that network and that substrate through which you can actually make sure that the money gets to where you want it to go to.
Yep.
So, these are some of the things that maybe you're a little bit more known for. USIEA, giving to the cancer patients. There's some other things behind the scenes, and I don't want to get into them, but Coach Paul, you've stepped into the gap sometimes when people who you and I both know were in need, in specific circumstances of need, that somebody had to plug a hole, not a small hole, and you stepped into that. What happens to you at that time when you know, because you were personally asked to step in. You knew there was a need, and you said, I'm going to plug the hole.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind at that point?
Sometimes, Avi, it does depend who asks. As you know, in giving, a lot of times it does depend who asks. Most of that really quiet, private giving come from ministers that know families that are proud but are in trouble and are in need, and they can't get from here to there. They don't even know how. And so my pastors and ministers know that that's an area that I want to give in. That's not something that you're writing off on your taxes. You're not waiting for is it a 501c3, which is important, but it's not what it's for. It's just these people that serve in the community know that they can call me. And that makes me feel really good. And the donor, the recipient would have absolutely no idea. I tell you what's interesting. It's just, and I know this isn't, you are what you give, but try one time to leave a Waffle House. Remember, you know what a Waffle House is, right? Are you okay? And leave a $100 gift, $100 tip.
Wow.
Or a $20 tip. It's just something that's more significant than your 50 or 10. Or when you're leaving, the family that's sitting over there, they're having breakfast. You might know the car that they just drove in on, and you could see the way the kids are dressed in their clothes, and you tell the waitress, don't say anything to anybody, please. This is to cover their breakfast. Do it. You have no idea how you will feel in doing it. Yes, that father, he won't be embarrassed because he'll do it in the right way. It helps. They need it. We should be doing that way, way more often. So for your listeners, when you're going to breakfast, okay, buy somebody's breakfast and bless somebody else. You will feel so good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's an awareness that people have to build up that muscle. Because when you go out to eat, you're usually thinking about your stomach.
Yep.
We turned the whole idea of
Right.
you are what you eat,
Right.
and turn it into you are what you give.
Right.
Because our lives are not going to be measured by how much we've consumed. They'll be measured by how much we left behind.
And it gives hope to people that sometimes are lacking hope or haven't had it, they're in the best way. That's one form. The other thing that gives me hope, Avi, is, as far as Jewish families that are, I think we've just stopped sending our kids to Hebrew school or Jewish day schools or studying, Torah or whatever it is. We've just sort of gotten away from it. It takes too much time. The kids don't really feel like going to Hebrew school. There really isn't a good Hebrew school, whatever it is. But when I see some of the passion with some of the young Jewish day school kids, or when my Christian wife has got college kids coming over to the house for Bible study, and they're hanging on her every word. And Brandy, give me more. I want to know more. I want to know Jesus more. I want to be more like him. I want to. And then when they worship and their hands are in the air, and those younger people, we have to teach them, but it gives me hope. And so sometimes by giving, whether it's giving the word or giving your resources, and especially giving to young people, it's the multiplier.
Right. And so you got that going on really on all different levels. You're basically involved in the community. I actually didn't know that Brandy did teaching.
Oh, she's amazing.
Is that at the home, at the house? Or?
At the home. No, she brings them into the house and she feeds them supper. And, they'll call, she's going for walks and lunch and tea, and these kids are going through real stuff as they're trying to be perfect and pretty and marry the man of their dreams and live a godly Christian life, but be beautiful.
Right.
And all the pressures of society and the depression but Brandy gets more out of it than these kids do.
So that's
she does. That's the about giving. She really, truly does get way more.
Yeah,
by giving to them. And
well, what about your kids? I had the opportunity to meet one of your sons, and I'm 6'2", but when I met him, I realized I was short. Okay, you're doing something to feed.
We got some big Jews. We definitely got I've got a couple of the biggest Jews in Alabama for sure.
Right.
Yeah, Steven's 6'5". He'll be the next head basketball coach at Auburn someday.
Oh wow.
Yep. I'm very proud of him. My son Michael's is in construction. He's a foreman. He does a wonderful job. He got a great heart. Steven has got my third granddaughter, Lainey, my oldest daughter, Jackie, who I prayed out loud. Heather Johnston taught me to pray out loud at Shiloh.
That's right.
And I did a video, I'll show it to you sometime, where I gave the video to my daughter for her to give to her daughter, because I prayed for my daughter for 2 or 3 years in a row to meet a man, to have a baby. That's all she ever wanted. Her dreams and my prayers came true.
Oh, wow.
Came true in Shiloh for sure. And we named the baby Noah. She named the baby Noah after Noah Tishby, who's an advocate.
Yeah, sure.
And
it's not the biblical Noah.
It's not the biblical Noah.
No,
it's not the biblical Noah.
In Hebrew, in English, they sound the same.
They do.
In Hebrew, they're different. Noah and Noah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And so again, so many blessings.
Yeah, and so
I love my kids are phenomenal. And my daughter Leah. Leah also, my second, has got 2 grandchildren. Chaya, all right. It's pronounced Shia, but it's spelled Chaya. I'm the only one that calls her Chaya.
That's amazing.
And Jaden, and she's due with my second grandson in late August.
So you've got. You're moving from one generation to the next. We heard a little bit about where you're coming from. Now you're raising up this next generation, and you can see the pride. You're beaming. If the people are listening and not seeing this on camera, beaming, of course, when you talk about your kids and when you talk about your grandkids. And so there's a lot that you're giving to. What's next for Coach Pearl? And Coach Pearl is still the coach.
Right.
You said, Stephen will take over at one point
as we speak,
whenever that happens. But what's next for Coach Bruce Pearl?
Don't know. I would say, honestly, what is our secret sauce for Auburn basketball has been getting our players to really, truly get in a relationship with the Lord, wake up every day and say, what does he want me to do? God, what would you have me to do? When I start making decisions, I really try not to listen to myself, but try to figure out, would God bless this decision? Well, I can get one more really good player to finish out my roster, but if I get that one more really good player, then the player that's in front of him, he's probably not got much of a chance, but this player's better. I don't know that God would bless that decision. You know what? We're going to have a little less sometimes. Sometimes less is more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And making decisions like that. So I'll tell you what's next for Bruce Pearl. I love my family. I love my country. I love the United States of America. I'm grateful for the opportunity. There were 3 Jewish basketball coaches in the Final Four this year.
Wow.
I want to teach my players, 95% of them African-American. I want them to own 5 subways, not work at one. Mm-hmm. I want them to understand, yes, there's racism. Yes, they're profiled. Yes, there's discrimination. Yes, there's anti-Semitism and on the rise. But this is still the greatest country in the world and the land of opportunity. And so I do want to make America great again. I do want America to be the best version of itself. I do want America to lead in the world. This world was starving for leadership, and when there is no leadership, particularly moral leadership, it can fall apart. And I'm glad that President Trump is leading. I want to help make our country great. I also love my Jewish ancestral homeland, Israel, and I want to do everything I can from a distance to help. Those 2 things are obviously important along with my family. I love Auburn. Man, I love Auburn. Auburn's a great place. And in education, Avi, we got to teach our kids. Passover, our faith has lasted for 3,500 years, however many years, because we pass the stories down generation to generation. My platform is big. You know what? So is your kitchen table. just get it done around your kitchen table. Maybe it can transfer in your workplace. Maybe it can transfer in your community. Maybe it can transfer in your town. Or, everybody worries, well, I don't have no platform. I can't do. You know what a big thing is? Do it around this table at your home. Speak to it. Teach your children. And if your children aren't being taught in school, get them to teach what they need to be taught, or put them in a different school. We got to teach this. We start teaching our kids.
You first of all, you speak with a lot of passion because you're a passionate person. You keep saying the word love. And I see the words love, passion, and also purpose as kind of being different sides to a multi-sided coin. These are all things that, the things that you're most passionate about tend to be very aligned with your life purpose. And we're hearing from you, by the way, that your life purpose is not one thing, it is many. You have different purposes and you're serving those purposes in different capacities. So it's really amazing. I think the food for thought that you're giving us on how those different purposes or passions can be applied in different circles, in different contexts, is powerful. You've gone everywhere from family to the basketball court to the United States of America and its role in the world. I want to quickly touch upon something before we get to our closing questions. You spoke before about how do you know when you're moving the needle on something? You check whether the organization or the kind of work that's being done, basically if it's not being done by somebody else. What happens if that organization wasn't there in the landscape? What would happen? And if it wasn't going to happen, there's a need to plug that hole. There's a need to fill in the blanks. There's a need to make something else happen. It seems to me like you're always thinking about the next thing, though. It's not just because someone else did it. Somebody else showed up to create the organization. You're going into the Waffle House and finding the next person. I think there's a really important message there where we just have our antennas up. We're looking for the opportunities to give. And as we think about that, let's get to these closing questions. The first question, if we look at giving as the most important investment that we'll ever make, and I'm going to tell a quick story to drive that home, and I think this will resonate. When I went on that book tour, the Kosher Giving book tour, by the way, I called it the Buc-ee's book tour because everywhere I went from one city to the next in the South, there was a Buc-ee's. And if our subscribers don't know what a Buc-ee's is, it's called BUC-EE''S. They are not paying or sponsoring this episode or any of our episodes, but it's an experience. So on the Buc-ee's book tour, came through Auburn, and wherever I went, I told the story about the very, very wealthy individual who's approached by a younger man. And the young man says to the wealthy individual, "Can you tell me, sir, how much are you worth?" And he thinks for a moment, and he gives him a number. And the younger man says, with a chuckle, "Come on, everybody knows that you're worth at least 10 times that. Why are you giving me that number?" He said, "Son, you did not ask me about my balance sheet. You did not ask me about my yachts, my properties, my investments. You asked me what I'm worth, and I'm only worth what I've given. I'm not worth my balance sheet, because when we kind of close and you bet you got a 2-year anniversary for your parents who invested so much in you coming up. So when we close up shop and we move on, the only things that we take with us is what we've given, the irony. You take with you what you no longer have because you can't take anything else." And I don't know, and maybe I'm just not familiar enough, but I don't know of a single society on the face of this earth where when they honor the people who passed, they talk about, "Oh, that guy made a lot of money. Oh, he was filthy rich." Nobody remembers people that way. Even when it's not true, we will go out of our way to find the virtues of the person about what they gave to the community, what they gave beyond themselves. You talked about the ups and downs. Over the course of the past year or so, would you say that there's something that happened or things going on that make you lose sleep? And if so, what might that have been?
Oh, just losing games.
Of course.
The opponent, the expectation of your fans. I don't like disappointing people.
Wow, that weighs heavy.
Oh, it weighs heavy. Yeah. I'm not at the point where I'm going to lose enough games to get fired. Mm-hmm. That was a fear when I was younger. And I do have that fear for younger coaches because when we're winning,
everybody's happy.
Yeah. And they're worried we're going to leave.
Oh, I got
losing,
right,
packing our bags.
That's right.
So in coaching, we're always coming or going.
Wow.
So my last piece of advice is this: don't rent, don't lease, buy.
Mm-hmm.
Have both feet in.
Invest.
Invest. So many people are in their workplace. and they're thinking about, well, what could be the next? What's the next step? And what I say is, you know what? Do an unbelievable job where you are, and you know what? The next will take care of itself.
Amazing. That's awesome. One more question. We talked in the book, The Coach for Giving. It's the 4 steps to creating your meaningful, mindful, and measurable philanthropy plan. But let's turn that into English for a second. If you had to choose on upping your game of the way that you give, not that you need to in any way, shape, or form, but if you wanted to make your giving even better, would you focus on the meaningful piece, the mindful, or the measurable? To translate that to English again, would you want your giving to be more purposeful? Would you want it to be maybe more efficient in terms of methodology, or would you want to focus on it being more impactful?
I think, without knowing that I'm even answering your question, Avi, I think because I'm a coach and because I'm a teacher, and because my Hebrew name is Mordechai, I want to give to teaching, and I want to give to people that are teaching, because again, I think that is a multiplier. I want to be able to make sure that kids want to go to rabbinical school or divinity school or schools to be able to improve themselves, to make this world a better place and have them have a better life for themselves and their family. So I think somehow, some way, education is, to me, can be a great, could be just educating on how to become an incredible plumber. You don't have to go to college to get educated. But I think that would be something that would be.
So you're focused on the long-term cumulative effect of giving moving forward. Amazing. I want to thank you for giving of your time and effort. And so our listeners and viewers and subscribers know it was not easy for Coach Pearl to come here today. And we are in a heat wave here in Jerusalem right now.
What, Jerusalem traffic at rush hour?
And the traffic and the construction and the light rail and all kinds of wonderful things going on. Thank you for the extra effort. Thank you for going the extra mile as you always do. Really appreciate it. Keep giving.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, team, you are what you give. Before we close, here are a few key takeaways from today's conversation with Coach Bruce Pearl, and I keep calling him Coach. First, earn this. Bruce spoke openly about the weight of responsibility to his family, to his players, and to his community. Earn this. Live in a way that honors the gifts that we've been given, the people who have helped develop us, the opportunities that are in front of us. Second, you can coach people as hard as you love them. That's true on the court, it's true in the classroom, it's true in the boardroom, everywhere you may be. Real leadership, the kind that gives and builds, isn't soft. It's honest. When you truly care about the people who you're giving to, you will help them become their best. Third takeaway, and this one is very practical. When you're choosing where to give, how to invest your time, treasure, and talents, pretend that the organization that you're giving to doesn't exist. What would happen if it disappeared tomorrow? What gaps would be there? How would the world look? That simple question, we'll call it the absence test, is a powerful way to understand the value of a nonprofit and the weight of your contribution. Throughout this episode, Bruce mentioned a number of the organizations that he's involved with: Athletes for Israel, the U.S. Israel Education Association, Outlive. You'll find each of those in the show notes below. Check them out. You just might decide to get involved. And now, this week's Giving Challenge. Use your platform, whatever size it might be, to share what matters to you. Your platform might be public, it might be private. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's just you with your neighbors or sitting around your kitchen table with your family. Tell someone what you care about. Let people close to you hear directly from you about what matters to you. Remember, you are what you give. When you share what you care about, you're having a values conversation. That may lead others to appreciate what you care about. It might, alternatively, lead you to realize just how much you care about what you're sharing. It might lead you to better giving as well. So that's the play, team. You are what you give. This week, make sure to name what you care about out loud to someone who matters to you. Thanks for listening. If this conversation resonates, please subscribe. It's a simple step that helps us share the word and build a community that values what we give more than what we take.